Star Talk.
We can talk it out. So what you got if you don't live loud. We're together now, so let's talk it out.
Almost everyone near a television 3 years ago was captivated by footage of a jet plane in the Hudson River. Flight 1549 became known as the Miracle on the Hudson after pilot Lorrie Sullenberger made an emergency landing when a flock of geese knocked out the engines. His life and that of his family were forever changed by that event. His wife, Lorrie, is opening up in an interview with Ladies' Home Journal, and she's here today with us. Please welcome Lorrie Sullenberger. Welcome, Lorrie. Take us back to that day. Where were you when this was going down, and when did you realize that is your husband's plane?
You know, every wife loves this part of the story because I hadn't been watching the news. We live in California, so it was earlier in the day. And I was on a business call when Sully started to call home. I'm sorry, I have a bit of a frog today. I was expecting him home that night, so I expected him to call. So I was on this important call, and so as I saw he called on my cell phone, I promptly ignored him. Oh! And he actually started calling our landlines, and he knew I was there, so he actually called like 4 different times before I finally excused myself from the important phone call. I was busy. I was on, and when I first picked up the phone, I'm afraid to say I was actually a little irritated and said, "What?" And he started out, you know, he's very controlled, everyone knows, and he didn't want to just blurt it out at me, and so he just said, "I just want you to know I'm okay." But I hadn't been watching the news, so I didn't know what he was talking about, and I just thought that meant that he'd be home that night, and I said, "Okay, great, I'll see you tonight, goodbye." And he said, "No, I mean, there's been an incident," and I thought that meant, well, then, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, goodbye. And he said, "No, have you watched television?" And I turned it on, and your brain really does this amazing thing to protect you, and you just can't absorb what I was watching on television with what he was telling me. He said, "I'm okay," and I said, "What do you mean okay?" Like, okay, and he said, "I have not a bump or a bruise. I'm just wet from the waist down." And he was actually in one of the rafts. He wasn't yet ashore, but he was off of the airplane, and so he said, "I'll call you later."
Wow.
And so that was how he told me.
And then you said that he said later that night that he thought it was going to change your lives forever. So how did it change your lives? Was it so dramatic from that day forward?
You know, I tell people that we see the event as almost a 2-part thing. There was the accident itself, and then there was the media aftermath. And it felt as if somebody had turned a fire hose on you full steam. It was what it felt like to us. Sully now tells people it changed our lives completely, totally, and forever. And in mixed ways, and in good ways, we've had a lot of amazing opportunities, but it's been a very steep learning curve for all of us in our family.
Why do you think that this event resonated with so many people, and not just Americans, in such a personal way? Because it's affected people all over the world.
We've had letters from every continent on the planet. And I think I have become kind of the keeper of the letters. We received over 50,000 communications came to us within a very short period of time. As a matter of fact, you can write a letter from France that says Hero Pilot USA with no address, and it will show up at our house.
Whoa.
I shouldn't actually be saying that, but I told Sully one day, I said, "You're like Santa." And the overwhelming thing, I have read most of the letters, and it's hope. One woman was so succinct, and she said, "In the last year, I lost my job, my home, my father passed, and my best friend to cancer. I had lost my faith, and you, sir, gave it back." And I think that is what I think resonates with people. We were having car service recently, and I hear people say to me all the time, "Oh, you're so lucky to be married to this American hero." And some days, frankly, I don't want to hear it. And that day I didn't. But she got up and immediately said her son had been in an accident and lost a thumb and a finger and his left eye. And she said, I just felt like I had tried my whole life to keep him safe and I had failed as a mother. And she said, when I saw the two of you come in, she said, I realized there's always reason for hope. And she was sobbing, crying, telling me that. And I just feel so touched by all these amazing human stories that somehow resonates with people on a personal level.
Lorrie Sullenberger, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your story with us. To read more of Lorrie's story, you can pick up this month's issue of Ladies' Home Journal on newsstands now. We'll be right back.